to have a couple of those really pop. And I'm optimistic about how Allen and Davis could kind of round that out. And, from there, we'll see how everything else trickles down. And hopefully Hackett, there's going to be a time where like the Jets peter out in the red zone and like come up with a ridiculous call. And we're like, man, can they really overcome this offensive coordinator? And look, that's going to be a real question all the way up into them hopefully making the playoffs. And when they're going against really good defenses and defensive minds, like it's a lot to ask Rodgers to be a 41-year-old, like great quarterback and also control everything at the line and kind of like dictate the overall scheme and strategy. So hopefully Hackett could help a little bit and Downing could help a little bit. You may get Sean Jefferson in the room now. Maybe he helps a little bit. And you just got like more veterans, Mike Williams, Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses. You got some other like guys who are smart and could contribute to that process. So you hope that helps. But drilling down what the Jets scheme is to like one thing, I think will be hard. I think it's going to be an evolved version.
We haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's going to be an evolved version of what you saw from Rodgers when he had Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. There's going to be some Shanahan influence on the run game, which I think every team really has at this point. And it's going to be a lot of where Breece Hall takes us a lot of weeks. Because there's going to be, this is rare for the Jets, but there's going to be like 4 or 5 games where the Jets are they just overmatch the team they're playing against from a talent perspective. And guys like Breece and that defense should allow them not to coast to a victory, but to play from ahead and do certain things and not have to get crazy on offense with us demanding that they do trick plays and all this hurry up and all this stuff just to like try to score a touchdown, because this team has scored so few touchdowns that I could like tweet in under 140 characters all their offensive touchdowns up to
you remember,
week 9 last year.
Like you
remember them one at a time. Okay,
Yeah.
Week 1, Garrett Wilson scored 1 touchdown. Week 2, Garrett Wilson scored 1 touchdown. It's like week 3, like they scored 1 touchdown. It was like Breece Hall had like 1 touchdown a week for 4 weeks. Those were their only touchdowns. Nick Bawden, had the 1 touchdown in week 3. How could I forget?
Right.
So that's how the season started. It was like 1 touchdown per game. Even when they were like beating the Giants and the Eagles, it was like 1 offensive touchdown from Breece Hall. The Eagles let them score. It was actually like insane. Back-to-back primetime games. I believe they didn't score a touchdown in either on offense against the Chargers and the Raiders. So it's a different rant.
Well, the Raiders one, we always talk about the season was over when Zach Wilson
stepped out of bounds. That was it. So we will certainly see a better offense this year, because even if Rodgers gets hurt and we get like 4 weeks of Tyrod Taylor, like Tyrod will make some things happen. He'll score points. Yeah. But I just want to talk about touchdowns and like
break. Let me throw something at you. Like, speaking of touchdowns, I'll throw something at you. And this is probably, maybe this isn't the year for it. Maybe the year after this year is the year for it. Is there a world where we get a little 2003 vibe where in 2003, Lamont Jordan only had 46 carries, 190 yards, but he scored 4 touchdowns. Curtis Martin that year had 323 carries, over 1,300 yards, but he only ran for 2 touchdowns. It's probably not this year. It's probably 2 years from now. But there's a part of me that just wonders, because getting hammered at the goal line is like one of the most dangerous aspects of the game. Do the Jets between the 20s just ride Breece Hall, and then when they're on the goal line, just have Braylon Allen just smash the ball in?
I mean, how mad is that going to make every fantasy owner in the world? Well, but yes,
and Breece,
I can see.
I mean,
and Breece.
Breece is a guy that, like, and I get it. Like, he wants to score touchdowns, but to me, the hard conversation, if Braylon Allen, let's call them even, and I don't know if that's fair, because Breece's foot speed challenges the pylon differently, but I'm talking about like literally a halfback dive.
Yes.
I mean, he's 240 pounds. It saves Breece's legs for the rest of the game. Maybe it's stupid. Maybe it's overthinking, but I just looked back at the 2003 Jets and thought of that.
Well, one shout out to the 2003 Jets, under forgotten season in between a fun 2002 and 2004 year, a season that was killed effectively by Pennington getting hurt in the preseason. Thank you. I think it was Jason Sehorn or somebody. It's the Giants preseason game. I'm still mad about it.
Yeah,
I learned about it when I was at high school football camp, but I think I almost sobbed as a high school football player because I knew they were done.
Yeah, everyone did. It was awful.
It's not a crazy thought. It also, like, with the goal line calls, I always think back to that random 2011 Sanchez year when he had 6 rushing touchdowns and they were all like 2 yards or less. And I don't think
do it with Rodgers.
You're not going to do that with Rodgers, but
do you?
Yeah.
This is galaxy braining. Like nobody's even going to take me seriously saying this, and I'm not even taking myself seriously. There's part of me that wonders, if you're gonna just try to plunge, do you have Corley take a snap with Brees?
Yeah, the little direct snap, like
Brees or Braylon in the backfield, where like he has the threat of handing the ball off is there, but pound for pound, he's one of the strongest players in the skill group. Or do you have Tyrod do it? I'm not having
the Josh Johnson 2-point play from a few years ago where they brought him in.
I am not having Rodgers quarterback sneak at the goal line. There's not a world. People forget. I think Purdy got his concussion last year. I think on a quarterback sneak. Like it's a very dangerous move in the NFL for most quarterbacks.
Listen, there are teams who periodically have a quarterback sneak specialist. I know Jacoby Brissett's done it in a few different instances. The problem is of all the quarterbacks you'd want to do that, I feel like it wouldn't be Tyrod, who's also very injury prone and has had weird injuries throughout his career.
Wouldn't have him do it either.
It can't be Jordan Travis because he's probably going to be on IR.
He's already hurt.
So it's like, do you just have Corley come in and take a direct snap and fall forward? Or if the Jets want to do a tush push, you're not going to do it with Rodgers. So it's like,
no, you're going to do it with the weight room freak.
Allen or Bree, you have creatine Corley pushing bowling ball Braylon forward. I mean, it's 2 yards every time.
I would at least screw around with it in the last preseason game, I think.
It's actually an interesting wrinkle. It's not a terrible thought. It makes sense.
I was kind of not serious, but I'm also I want to see it.
If Rodgers gets hurt in a quarterback snap, they might burn MetLife to the ground. I just can't even imagine what would happen. You just can't even risk it. They would never risk it, the coaching staff.
You can't do it. The only time you could do it is in the playoffs when no one's ready for it. Exactly. It's the only time you could do it.
If it's week 3 and they're up 10-0 on the Pats and they QB sneak Rodgers, I'm charging the field. Now, another thing I think you'll see, and I think this is Rodgers, because he's going to want a lot of touchdown passes, is first and goal from the 2.
He's going to care about the stats this year. Yeah.
First and goal from the 2, speed out Garrett Wilson. I could see Garrett Wilson. There was a year Santonio Holmes, I think it was 2011 or 2012, probably 2011, where he had 7 or 8 touchdowns, and they were all 3-yard receptions. I could see Garrett Wilson having a lot of 1 and 2 yard touchdown receptions. Again, something I feel like Devontae did a lot of, where first and goal, come in motion, go to the center, whip back out, speed out, 1 yard touchdown catch. Play action, dump it to a wide open tight end, 1 yard touchdown catch. I could see Garrett Wilson and Conklin in particular, each having 4 touchdown catches under 1 yard, and Rodgers having some games where he's 17 of 23 for 186 yards with 3 touchdowns. And they're all 2-yard touchdown passes.
They would sign up if they were allowed to play that way. The Jets would sign up for that every week.
Yes.
Every week.
So now we're so confident the Jets are scoring touchdowns this year. We're talking about how they're going to carve them up and divide them. And I think they scored 9 offensive touchdowns total last year if you take out the Texans and the Washington game. So this is good. I'm glad we got to talk a little X's and O's, defense, on War Room, offense here.
To put a bow on it, I want to be polite about this, but I mean, I think you just have to say what it is. Who's the worst Jet that scores a touchdown this year, or the most surprising Jet to score a touchdown this year on offense? We can't say pick 6, fumble recovery, that stuff. Who the hell knows?
So I think last year the answer had to be Bawden. Unless I'm missing someone. I mean, Randall Cobb actually is the answer. He scored a touchdown against Houston. Shout out Randall Cobb. Brownlee had one, but
it's still Bawden.
It's Bawden or Cobb. This year, I think it's probably Yeboah. I could see him actually.
Damn it, that's my go-to.
Yeah, he'll finally get. The funny thing about Yeboah is, he's this great receiver. He has 1 catch in his career. I think he has 1 or 2 catches in his career. What does he have? 4 career catches in 3 years? He averages 1 catch a season.
He has 4 catches for 64 yards.
Okay, I think all of them came in the Bucs game. Zach Wilson's
2 of them were in the Bucs game, and then last year, I don't even remember this. He had 2 catches for 28 yards last year.
That had to be the last game of the season.
I need to go to the game.
I would guess it had to be the last game of the year against Miami.
So much of my life is dedicated to this team. I don't have any recollection. They were both against. Am I in the right season? They're both against the Browns.
Oh yeah, late in the year, I could see that. There's a lot of garbage time in that game with Simeon. Not crazy.
They were both against the Browns. He had 3 targets, 2 catches, 28 yards against the Browns.
And it wasn't like Yeboah, he's just receiving. It's like he averages 1 catch a season. But yes, I could see him having a touchdown this year. I could see Gibson. I don't want to put Gibson in the bucket because it's actually pretty impressive as a rookie. I think he had 3 total touchdowns. It's probably
most random is a better way to frame it than worst yet because it counts the offensive linemen because the offensive linemen are not bad players. They're just random.
That'd be Fashanu, which we hit that prop last week.
We did.
And then maybe Irv Charles gets a garbage time touchdown because he's on the roster as a special teamer.
Irv Charles is a really, really good one. Yeah, I think that's got to be it. I mean, because like saying Brownlee is not like Brownlee. There's a world where Brownlee is the second wide receiver, like at some point.
Brownlee could have the first touchdown of the season for all we know if Mike Williams isn't healthy.
That would be an interesting, depending on how summer goes. That would be a prop that I'd throw like $3 on.
Jason Brown.
It's like plus 2,500, maybe. Probably more. Probably more than that. Yes. Probably like 30 to 1.
Most human beings outside of people who listen to this podcast and other Jets don't know who Jason Brownlee is, as they should. He had a touchdown last year against Washington. We got a couple requests for the survey, so I will call this out throughout July. We're going to have friend of the show, Dan Hansis, back on at some point. We're going to do a very specific fantasy best ball underdog episode at some point, and we'll do like a betting specific prop bet one at some point. Also, the night before practice starts, we'll have the other 1 hour long training camp special. We did a version of it last year.